first of all, Dave, what armies do you play in 40K?
So I play Orks and Blood Angels, and I have played Tyranids and Eldar and Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, he just plays a lot. He goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Actually, traded his Chaos Marines for more
Assault Marines and drop pods.
There's just some stuff that I really shouldn't get. For instance, on my Great Hunters, I get a I upgrade a Power Fist, a Standard, a Wolfen, and either a Flamer or Melta, or Flamer and Melta, depending on how many troop choices I take in one unit. So you were saying.
So my thing is, I tend to have specialized squads for various things. So if I'm going to have a tank hunting squad, that's what they'll be there for. If I'm going to have a squad for assault, they should be assault. So maybe I would stick a Power Fist in there, but probably I would just have a power weapon and rely on my Furious Charge to get an extra strength. So what I see you doing with your Grey Hunters is you are turning them into generalists rather than specialists, which is fine, but that means they'll be weaker at everything.
Jack of all trades problem, right? Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, when you're playing something like a tournament or something, don't you have to generalize?
You do have to generalize. Or you have your army be a bunch of specialists. So you have people for support, people for assault, people for long range, people for close range, and you use them together in symmetry in order to win, essentially. Or you could have an army of generalists and then just like throw them at the problems. I mean, that's not quite the right way to phrase it, but yeah, it's a trade-off. So that means if your enemy surprises you by being really fast in some way, you might not have the right unit to respond appropriately. But against a slower enemy, you'll typically have the advantage if your army's faster and more maneuverable, then you can get the right unit to the right spot at the right time.
Right, so like you suggested on my Grey Hunters is not to take the heavy flamers or melta guns, which we'll get into that in a bit about the melta guns, as well as just taking the banner and the wolfen, really. And forget the Power Fist, because
what are you going to use it for?
Right.
You can take a power weapon for 10 less points, and you're still wounding on 4, so you're slightly less likely to wound, but you'll get more attacks as a trade-off. So if you give it to the Wolf Guard, he'll get twice as many attacks as a Power Fist.
If I take the Wolf Guard into it.
If you take the Wolf Guard with the power weapon, yeah. So I'd say that the Wolf Guard, the Wolfen is definitely great. And the banner, as long as you remember to actually re-roll the ones, works out really well. But the Melta gun, I think you used that once this game, and it missed.
Yeah.
For all 4 squads.
That's true.
You didn't use the Flamers at all.
At all. Because he kept getting the salts.
Because I run a really fast Blood Angels army, so I can typically always get the assault in because I have an assault radius of 18 inches.
Now, one of my biggest complaints about 40K and Fantasy, unless you're playing Skaven, is that you can't shoot into your own guys. Now, okay, they're saying, well, you don't want to, sacrifice your own guys, but as a general or the leader of an army, if you have to sacrifice the few, for a major gain of the many, then I say go for it. If that means shooting missile launchers or frag grenades into my
Space Marines
that are fighting,
they probably won't even hurt.
Yeah, which probably won't even hurt. Then it should be my right as a general to do that. Now, that's one of the rules that irks me about Warhammer 40K is that I can't shoot into my own guys. Screw my own guys. If I have to win the battle to sacrifice 5 guys, then I should be able to. Of course, the rules don't let you. And of course, as house rules, you could probably change that. But that's one of the gripes I have. So I wanted to see what they thought about it.
Yeah, and also this is the same Imperium. If you're playing as the Imperium, that will destroy an entire world if there's heretics on it. So if people who will sacrifice a planet can probably afford to sacrifice a few soldiers.
Exactly, right. Yeah, you have the Inquisition coming in, and you have the
Exterminatus.
Doing Exterminatus and just destroying whole worlds, but they're afraid of shooting into a squad of 10 guys. That's really retarded.
most of the units in the Blood Angel army have Descent of Angels, which means they only scatter d6 inches. So I'm actually not sure if the Land Raiders have that. I don't believe they do. I might have done wrong in our game. But the idea is, so every vehicle in the Blood Angel armory is a fast vehicle, except for the Land Raiders. So the way they make Land Raiders like fast is they give them the special ability to actually the deep strike into play. So the fluff behind that sort of is the Blood Angels have very close ties to the Mechanicum, so they have way better stuff than everyone else, as well as they have other stuff, special engines they found on their home planet. But in game terms, what this means is they can move 12 inches and still shoot a main weapon, as well as all of their defensive weapons. And if
that's most Space Marine Land Raiders. Because of the Spirit Machine and the defense weapons, right?
No, that's not. Oh, for their Land Raiders, they can only shoot one weapon with Spirit of the Machine.
Right.
But all their other vehicles can move 12 inches and still shoot a regular weapon.
Oh, okay.
And if the power of the machine, then they can shoot two weapons moving 12 inches.
Oh, it's crazy.
And they can all move 18 inches and get a cover save. The Ball Predators have a scout move, so that means they can move up to 18 inches before the game starts.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Or they can outflank, so that means they can come in from the sides. Which, if you stick a flamestorm cannon on them and two heavy flame responsons for only 140 points, you have a tank that can come in from the sides and has a flame template that instantly kills Space Marines on a 2+.
Dave, any suggestions about building an army list for any of the armies you played?
So for the armies that I play, generally I've played assault armies, because that's what I really like playing, because I feel that most of the games are decided in the assault phase. So especially if you get the charge in and you wipe out squads, that's when you're really winning the game. So in order to do that, I build up a core of very strong assault units. So using my Blood Angels as an example, I have an HQ. I generally take a Reclusiarch, who's basically a super chaplain, and I'll stick him with the Death Company. And what that does is, so the Death Company, for 20 points a model, you get a Space Marine Veteran with Weapon Skill 5. That's automatically Fearless, Feel No Pain, Furious Charge, and Fleet. So they're absurd. If anything were OP, it would be them. The only downside to them is they have Rage, so that means they always have to move towards the closest enemy unit, unless you stick them in a vehicle.
Yeah.
But the Reclusiarch, if you stick a Reclusiarch with them, that means they get to reroll all to hits and all to wounds in the turn that they charge.
Okay, now we're talking about Blood Angels right now, right? Yeah.
Right. So the Blood Angels are all about force modifiers. So depending on the army you're playing, you need to think about various things. Like for Space Wolves, for example, it's all the army working together. The Grey Hunters are supported by the Long Fangs, and the special characters give them all a bunch of special extra stuff. The Blood Angels are a little bit like that in that the Sanguinary Priests make all the units that much stronger and harder to kill, and significantly stronger in the turn that they charge. And if you stick them with jump packs, they'll almost always get the first charge in. Until they get stuck in there, and then a unit comes in behind them and charges them. So I tend to build up my armies around a core of really heavy-hitting units, and then I start going with the support long-range weaponry. While I've seen you focus on the long-range heavy weaponry, running 3 squads of Long Fangs,
Rune Priests,
Razorbacks, all that stuff.
I just like the long-range game, I think.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to play Tau, but when I got the Codex, I'm like, oh, these guys really suck.
Yeah.
I just decided to go with Orks instead.
So, you really have to know your army and know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. So for Orks, they're a very versatile army, so you can go with the mech list, or you can go with just a horde. If you have, you can have up to 180 boys on the field for 6 troop choices. not many people can kill that many, can actually deal that many wounds before you get into combat. And on the charge, they have 4 strength 4 attacks at initiative 3. So they'll typically go last, except against Necrons.
Yeah.
Of course, the Necrons is a whole other story.
Now a whole story.
So really, it's about knowing your army, knowing what you want to play. You build a strong core of like what you like, and then you add things on to that. I found. So we talked a little bit earlier about generalist versus specialist, how they both have their roles, and so that's another thing to keep in mind. Whether you like having units that can deal with everything, or you want to kind of shuffle units around so they're where they need to be.
Okay, and that's it for TactTalk, and here with Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dave. And if you guys had any comment, questions, or about anything that we talked about here, please go ahead and post them. We'd love to hear. If you have any questions or anything that you want us to talk about, just let me know, and I'll get in the next TactTalk. So that's it. We're shooting here in Game Ogre, and Sunday, what is it, December the 4th? Yeah, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. And remember, like, subscribe if you haven't, and favorite if you love me. Talk to you guys later.